Marauders number 11 is the long-anticipated funeral for Kate Pryde, killed by Sebastian Shaw way back in Marauders number 6. Given the resurrection capabilities of the X-Men on Krakoa, this is of course entirely unusual, and while rebirth is inevitable, it's interesting to consider exploring the mysteries of Kate Pryde and what they mean for the X-Men, the Marauders, and of course the character moving forward. Today I'll answer, how can Kate Pryde be resurrected? Theories for why her resurrection took as long as it did, and what it has to do with her unusual inability to use Krakoan gates, and what's the point of revenge killings between mutants on Krakoa, an island renowned now for its resurrection capabilities to bring anyone back. You're listening to Krakin Krakoa number 70. I'm Dave Busing, founder and editor-in-chief of comicbookherald.com. If you like Comic Book Herald YouTube channel or podcast, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing. You can, of course, find full reading orders over on CBH. Spoilers for Discuss Comics may follow. This issue by Jerry Duggan, Stefano Caselli, colors by Edgar Delgado, and letters by Corey Pittet, opens with a letter from Kurt Wagner to Kitty Pryde, as he used to know her, of course, the friends long back from the 80s Claremont X-Men days. He's writing her a letter, even though he knows her to be gone, and it's pretty sad and kind of this weird, unusual moment on Krakoa where we actually have a funeral. There's a really great quote here: "There will be no cemeteries on Krakoa," right? This idea of needing to actually bury the dead is totally foreign to this mutant nation, the way that they're established now and with resurrection protocols. But in the case of Kate Pryde, they find themselves in a situation where they have not been able to figure out how to actually bring her back. It's confounding everyone. Emma, following the funeral, she finds Lockheed, who has flown great distances, returns, and she's able to get a psychic reading to show her that it was Sebastian Shaw who killed Kitty Pryde, of course, as we knew, again, back from Marauders number 6. Emma is rightfully furious with Shaw, and for me, it raises some questions about what mutant retribution can and should look like. A revenge killing has an impact, certainly, but Krakoa also mitigates the permanence of that old hat, right? She can kill Shaw, but he'll be back. Taking his actions to the Quiet Council, even, that might even be insufficient. He hasn't killed a man, right? The laws of Krakoa, these 3 laws, technically this isn't disrespecting Krakoa, and the, make more mutants angle, I think, is up for debate here. He is taking away a mutant. Should that, in turn, violate the make more mutants protocols? I'm not entirely sure, right? That seems like it could be a trial of Sebastian Shaw scenario, although I imagine Emma would like to take things into her own hands. Before we go deeper into that, though, there is a sort of side plot here with Aurora Monroe, Storm, who is up, and Adam meeting with Dolores of the X-Desk. Now, this is our first reveal of Dolores, the X-Desk memo writer throughout the Marauders series. It's a really nice addition to the Marauders mythos and some of the mysteries there to give us a face to the human who is actually sort of collaborating with Krakoa a little bit here. And again, like they work together. She sent what was going to be poisoned Krakoan medicine from Hominis Verendi that they were going to use to make it look like Krakoa had poisoned a bunch of humans and actually prevented that in turn with the Marauders. So it's an interesting relationship. I do think like managing, groups like Verendi's attempts to tamper with the drugs that the Marauders are delivering is actually a really interesting angle to sort of this black market drugs dealing that is going on, controlled by the Marauders. So getting back to the core, of this issue, Marauders number 11, Kate is finally resurrected when Emma reaches out to her kind of telepathically, kind of just glowily, to make up a word. The idea here is that the husk was trying to phase, and that's why she never broke out of her husk. Okay. This to me feels extremely inadequate. We'll talk about this a little bit, but there's been a lot of mystery and a lot of buildup to why Kate can't be resurrected. I think it's important. The idea that it was kind of simple, that it's just, the theory, of course, has always been like, well, it could just be her powers. It could just be her powers being kind of strange. That's always been a possibility, but given the amount of theorizing that's gone around it, it's kind of disappointing that might actually be the answer. So the 5 admit, once they get Kate resurrected, which is a huge deal and obviously a sigh of relief for everyone involved, that they tried, quote unquote, only 18 times, which Nightcrawler, who's around for most of this, momentarily seems very surprised by. So my first reading of this was, it was surprised that maybe they weren't trying as hard as Charles Xavier claimed. It seemed like they had tried hundreds of times. And it made me wonder if there's something to do with Moira and Professor Xavier keeping Kate kind of out of action for as long a stretch of time as possible to prevent her from just sort of phasing her way to secrets on Krakoa's. I mean, after all, Emma does crack Kate's problem fairly easily. And it's not impossible that she would have had an idea, Professor X didn't have. But again, how hard was he actually trying? I don't really know. But even that, like, if you take that thought out all the way through, the idea that Professor X's strategy here is to keep Kate out of action, limit her ability to use Krakoan gates, not resurrect her in a timely manner, it kind of falls apart because Kate still has access to the island. When Emma and Nightcrawler approach him about resurrecting Kate, he still very much acquiesces to this. So it would be a very flawed strategy on their part because, again, like, Kate's going to be around. So if they were really hiding something from her, trying to keep her off, I think the actions would have to be more deliberate, kind of like what we've seen them doing with precognitive mutants, which we'll talk about a little bit as well. I do have to mention, too, a theory here mentioned via the @MutantMusings podcast on Twitter that in Jewish numerology, the number 18 stands for life because the Hebrew letters, they mean living, right? So there's a lot to this that is, frankly, well beyond my knowledge of religion and comprehension. But the fact that Kate Pryde is Jewish and that this number has significance in the religion, that actually makes a lot of sense why it would be tied to her, why Kurt's eyes would light up, of course, being the religious scholar and, of course, looking to found a mutant religion on Krakoa. That actually makes a lot of sense. So, cutting away here to a little theory, is there a plot to slow Kate's presence on Krakoa? Again, we still don't really know that this resurrection, cracking the code on that helps her use the Krakoan gates. But again, like, if there is, this feels underbaked. I think, I've got the image up here on the YouTube of Mystique and her ability or her efforts to try and bring Destiny back and finding, this sort of Destiny cavern that seems secret within Krakoa. Kate could still find all this stuff, right? Like, it's not like she couldn't accidentally sink to a no place and find Moira or something if she really wanted to, I guess. So if that was the concern about her presence within the island, or about her, phasing and short-circuiting Cerebro or whatever the challenges might be, I feel like bringing her back but slow doesn't solve those concerns. So I honestly, I think the answer might just be that it's all physiology, it's all based on her powers, and that it basically, like, all the theorizing and the mystery around it is kind of just stuff fans got super into, obviously myself included, that isn't really what Duggan is focused on. It's possible there's a lot more mystery here, but it might actually just be kind of the simplest answer, Occam's razor, that her power set is wonky, and it really messes with a lot of what's going on Krakoa. So the tease for Marauders number 12, the next issue, shows a resurrected Kate with new knuckle tattoos that read Kill Shaw, and the Krakoan reads Rebirth. Again, I'm interested in what Emma and Kate can cook up regarding retribution for Shaw. Lord knows he has it coming. I'm excited to see that as Marauders continues and spirals into the Ten of Swords event, which this is a Path to Ten of Swords issue, although, I mean, aside from obviously the big news that Kate is back, I'm not really sure that there's anything Ten of Swords, like, super directly related, but time will tell on that front. So thanks for listening to this quick review of Marauders number 11. Again, I'm Dave. You can find support for the site at patreon.com/Comic Book Herald. Thanks in particular to our mysterious benefactors tier. And you can find all my work at comicbookherald.com, at Comic Book Herald, pretty much everywhere online. Check out the Best Comics Ever and My Marvelous Year podcast if you are so inclined to listen to some of the Krakin Krakoa efforts. That way, I had a Kree Annotators interview with artist Joshua Cassara on X-Force that just went up very, very recently. You can check that out on the YouTube channel as well. If you check out the X-Men playlist that I have, that's got every episode of Krakin Krakoa, if you are so inclined to check out all the big stuff. The question I posed this past weekend, are the X-Men the villains of the Dawn of X, is the most engaged with post I've ever had in the Krakin Krakoa series. The comments are numerous and they are extensive. So if you want to engage in that conversation, again, you can check out the X-Men playlist for all the Krakin Krakoa videos. So thanks everybody for listening. I want to hear your comments and thoughts about what you think might be going on with Kate Pryde's resurrection. Again, like, it all feels a little too simple to me, which maybe is just the plan all along and we got overinvested in it, but I wonder if there's another shoe to drop or if something else is coming. So again, leave comments, let me know what you think. Otherwise, thanks for listening as always, and enjoy the comics.